Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Munib Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. Pakistan has urged the international community to take notice of the gross human rights violations in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said this while addressing a photography and cultural exhibition organized in Islamabad to pay tribute to the Kashmiris. Qureshi said the Indian aggression in occupied Kashmir is unsustainable. Indian troops have martyred a 60-year-old civilian in occupied Kashmir's Baramulla district. The old man was targeted during a military operation in Uri area of the district. Meanwhile, Kashmiris are observing a complete shutdown to mark the martyrdom anniversary of a prominent leader, Maqbool Bhatt. New Delhi had hanged Bhatt in Tihar jail in 1984 for his role in the Valley's freedom movement. Pakistan has conducted a successful training launch of Babar cruise missile 1A. Pakistan's military media wing says the missile has a range of 450 kilometers, capable of engaging targets at land and sea with high precision. It said the missile has been launched from a state-of-the-art multi-tube missile launch vehicle. In Myanmar, a close aide to ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been detained in a new wave of arrests following last week's military coup. Thousands of protesters gathered across the country against the coup for a sixth straight day. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden also announced sanctions on Myanmar's military rulers over the last week's coup. The COVID-19 is hitting Latin America hard as Mexico and Brazil have each registered over 1,300 fatalities in the last 24 hours. In Pakistan, over 1,500 people tested positive and 57 lost lives overnight as the death toll nears 12,200. Globally, the coronavirus has claimed over 2.35 million lives and infected over 107 million people so far. Women's single top-seeded Ashley Barty has also advanced to the third round after beating Daria Gavrilova 6-1 and 7-6. And these were the top stories. News in detail after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. Pakistan has urged the international community to take notice of the gross human rights violations in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said this while addressing a photography and cultural exhibition organized in Islamabad to pay tribute to the Kashmiris. Details more in this report.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Islamabad organized a photographic and cultural exhibition as a tribute to Kashmirs in their struggle for their right to self-determination. During his address, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said, "What the Indian regime is doing in Kashmir is unsustainable." Shah Mahmood Qureshi said the diplomats should visit Azad Kashmir and Indian-occupied Kashmir to assess the ground realities and judge for themselves as to what the people want there. The foreign minister said Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir is under military siege over the last 18 months. He hoped the new U.S. administration, which is talking about human rights protection, will stop ignoring the ground realities in the occupied valley. He expressed the confidence that the OIC and the EU will also play their role in this regard.
Linked the struggle for self-determination to terrorism. Very smartly done. They linked it to terrorism. We need the support of the international community to understand what the present regime in India has done is unsustainable.
While addressing the audience, President of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, Sardar Masood Khan said, "The world is silent as they watch a cultural invasion take place in Indian-occupied Kashmir."
Because a cultural invasion has started in the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And the world is watching, but it is watching. UNESCO is silent, and so are other international organizations. There's a planning in Delhi for constructing some 100,000 temples in the occupied territory. There are threats to mosques and shrines in the occupied territory.
The leaders called on the international community to play their role in solving the Kashmir crisis and to grant the people of Kashmir a free and fair plebiscite.
Meanwhile, Indian troops have martyred a 60-year-old civilian in occupied Kashmir's Baramulla district. The old man was targeted during a military operation in Uri area of the district. Meanwhile, Kashmiris are observing a complete shutdown to mark the martyrdom anniversary of a prominent leader, Maqbool Bhatt.
From a teacher to a political activist and one of the loudest voices for Kashmir's freedom, Maqbool Bhatt's journey is an inspiration for Kashmir youth. 7 days before his 46th birthday, Bhatt, one of the beacons of Kashmir's freedom struggle, was executed by India. New Delhi had hanged Bhatt in Tihar jail in 1984 and buried him in the premises of the prison. The All Parties Hurriyat Conference says the sacrifices by Kashmiris will not be allowed to go waste and their mission will be accomplished at all costs. Mobile and internet services remained suspended, while a large number of occupying forces have been deployed in Srinagar city and elsewhere to stop the protest rallies.
Now, Pakistan has conducted a successful training launch of Babar cruise missile. The missile was test launched from a state-of-the-art multi-tube missile launch vehicle. The missile has a range of 450 kilometers. It is capable of engaging targets at land and sea with high precision. The joint military exercises of Pakistan Military Special Services Group troops and Turkish Special Forces are underway in Terbela. The drills titled Ataturk 11 will continue for 3 weeks. The military drills are focusing on counter-terrorism cordon and search, fire and move techniques and close-quarter battle. Helicopter rappelling, compound clearance and free-fall operations are also part of the exercises. Pakistan's military's media wing says the joint military exercises will further strengthen the bond between the two nations. Now, for more on this, we have been joined by our correspondent Sumaira Khan from Terbela. Now, Sumaira, what is the main focus of the Ataturk 11 2021 military exercises, and will this be a regular annual feature now?
Yes, indeed. The main purpose and the focus of this 11th Ataturk military exercise between the Special Services Group of Pakistan and Special Forces of Turkey is to further strengthen the defense ties between the two Islamic brotherly countries, Pakistan and Turkey. And it's not just the exercise that is aiming at strengthening these ties and bonds between Pakistan and Turkey. But apart from this, there are many defense collaborations that are being carried out by Pakistan and Turkey for last almost a decade, and in those defense ties we can easily name one huge defense cooperation deal that was signed between Pakistan and Turkey 3 years back in 2018 in a finalized manner, which obviously faced some setbacks due to non-provision of US for the export license technology to Turkey to finalize the engines for those T-129 helicopters, gunship helicopters. Those 30 helicopters were ordered by Pakistan from Turkey's aerospace industry. But now Turkey has tasked the TUSAS, which is sister organization of TAI, to develop an indigenous local engine for those gunship helicopters, so they can be delivered to Pakistan with phase 2 upgradation and reconfiguration.
Right. Also, Sumaira, tell us, what is the duration of these military drills and what kind of exercises are scheduled for the militaries of the two countries?
And apart from T-129 gunship helicopters, the second highest significant defense procurement between Pakistan and Turkey, including the technology transfer agreements. Pakistan has ordered 4 MILGEM corvettes from Turkey, and ASFAT, which is state-owned defense contractor of Turkey, they'll be building this. And right now, MILGEM's keel cutting has already taken place, and on that occasion, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan also reaffirmed and reassured their all-out defense support to Pakistan. And yes, you asked about the feature is going to be annual or what. So let me tell you that in 1999, first Ataturk exercise took place, and after that it is an alternate. The affair takes place on alternate positions. Like every year, a year Pakistan participates in Turkey, and the next year Turkey participates in Pakistan. And the interesting badge of this exercise is whenever Pakistani SSG troops are in Turkey to take part in Ataturk exercises, that exercise is titled after the founder of Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Jinnah. They are called, that exercise is called Jinnah Exercise, and when they are here in Pakistan to take part in this exercise, this is named after Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. So this is the most interesting part of the exercise, and we hold it every year. So it's 11th exercise in a row. The exercise, this particular Ataturk 11 exercise, is going to stay for 3 weeks. It started 3 days ago, and today on Thursday it's third day, and the high military officials will be here to pay tribute to the Turkish participating forces. And if we just have a look at what kind of exercise dimensions are, they're taking part in exercising and drilling over the specific angles of counter-terrorism, close-quarter battles, search and cordon, compound clearance, and apart from that, fire and movement and helicopter repelling. And along with helicopter repelling, there is another dimension that will be drilled in the whole exercise, and that is free fire. So, that is free fall. So this is going to be it's going to last for 3 weeks, and after 3 weeks there will be a concluding ceremony as well here at Tarbela, headquarters of Special Services Group of Pakistan.
Right, Samara Khan, thank you for updating us from Tarbela. Now, the International Naval Exercise Amman 2021, comprising of navies from 43 countries, has started at Karachi, Pakistan. Pakistan Naval Chief Admiral Muhammad Amjad Khan Niazi said the established norms of zero-sum security thinking needs paradigm shift. Admiral Niazi called on the world to come together and fight the common enemy. Meanwhile, Amman series titled this year as Together for Peace is aimed to promote regional cooperation and stability. The exercise allows to display a united resolve against terrorism and crimes in maritime domain, including piracy. Now, the Taliban have accused the Afghan government of killing at least 22 civilians over the past 2 weeks. In a statement, the Taliban said 69 others were injured as the government troops carried out 42 attacks. They said the deliberate artillery, air and ground strikes in 22 Afghan provinces forced many to evacuate their homes. The statement read the bombardments also demolished or damaged 29 homes, 2 health clinics and other civilian infrastructure. The Taliban condemned the attacks, calling them crimes against humanity. The group also called on all the involved parties and the world to play their role in preventing civilian oppression and deaths. Now moving to Myanmar, where protesters have returned to the streets of capital Naypyidaw after clashes in the anti-coup demonstrations yesterday. Hundreds of government workers marched in support of a civil disobedience campaign that has also been joined by the doctors. Meanwhile, the United States and United Nations have condemned the use of force against the protesters. US President Joe Biden has also announced sanctions on Myanmar's military rulers over the last week's coup. In a press conference, Biden called on the military to release all leaders and activists. The curbs will block Myanmar's military access to $1 billion of government funds held in the US. China's President Xi Jinping says confrontation between Beijing and Washington will be disastrous for both countries. President Xi said this during his first phone conversation with his US counterpart, Joe Biden.
President Xi cautioned Biden over matters related to Taiwan, Hong Kong and Xinjiang. He said both sides should re-establish the means to avoid misjudgments and manage disputes constructively. For his part, Biden told Xi that it was a U.S. priority to preserve a free and open Indo-Pacific region. In a statement, the White House said the two leaders also exchanged views on shared challenges, including pandemic and climate change. Meanwhile, during his first visit to the Pentagon, President Biden said the U.S. military is undertaking a comprehensive review of its strategic position against China. Biden said a new China task force will be formed to look at Washington's strategy and future posture.
Now, as former President Donald Trump's impeachment trial enters its second day at the U.S. Senate, House managers argued that Trump's comments to supporters before the Capitol riots announced to incitement of insurrection. The impeachment managers methodically pieced together the violence using Trump's own words and tweets against him. They argued that Trump left members of Congress for dead in Capitol riot. The leader of the Democratic prosecution team, Jamie Raskin, called Trump the inciter-in-chief of the anarchy on 6th of January.
The evidence will show you that ex-President Trump was no innocent bystander. The evidence will show that he clearly incited the January 6th insurrection. It will show that Donald Trump surrendered his role as commander-in-chief and became the inciter-in-chief of a dangerous insurrection.
Now, Democrats will continue to argue their case for conviction on Thursday before Trump's lawyers take the stand in his defense. Now, moving on, the UN's nuclear watchdog says Iran has started producing small amounts of uranium metal in the latest breach of the 2015 nuclear deal. In a statement, the International Atomic Energy Agency said its inspectors confirms production of 3.6 grams of metal at Iran's Isfahan facility. The statement read, IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi has informed the agency's member states about recent developments. It said Iran's activities on uranium metal production are on a part of its aim to produce fuel for the Tehran research reactor. The uranium metal can be used to make the core of an atom bomb. Meanwhile, U.S. State Department spokesperson said Washington continues to urge Tehran to resume full compliance with the deal. He said the U.S. hopes to pursue the pathway of diplomacy in order to resolve this urgent challenge. Moving on now, the U.S. has condemned the armed drone attack on Saudi Arabia's International Abha airport that set a civilian aircraft on fire. White House spokesperson says the attack coincides with the special U.S. and UN envoy's visit to Riyadh for Yemen's peace. White House spokesperson Jen Psaki said the Houthis continually demonstrate the desire to prolong the Yemen war by attacking Saudi Arabia. In a press briefing, she said the U.S. will continue to engage stakeholders for a negotiated settlement in the war in Yemen. Meanwhile, the State Department says Secretary Antony Blinken held a telephone call with Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud. Earlier, UN envoy Martin Griffiths and the U.S. envoy Timothy Lenderking met Saudi Deputy Defense Minister to discuss the situation in Yemen. The UN Special Envoy also visited Iran as efforts to find a comprehensive solution to the conflict. Now, Chinese and Indian troops have started to disengage simultaneously from the contentious Ladakh before shared by the two countries. China's Defense Ministry spokesperson said the disengagement happened at the north and the south shore of the Pangong Tso Lake. Meanwhile, Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said Beijing and New Delhi have reached an accord to disengage troops from the Western Himalayas. He said the agreement was finalized after several rounds of talks between military commanders and diplomats. Now, India and China have been fighting for decades over the largely uninhabited Aksai Chin region, including a brief war in 1962. However, the standoff turned violent last year and in Sikkim state when 20 Indian soldiers were killed in a clash with Chinese troops. Now, India's opposition party, Congress, has slammed Prime Minister Narendra Modi for not addressing concerns of protesting farmers during his speech at the Parliament. Talking to media, Congress leader Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary said over 206 farmers have lost their lives, but the Prime Minister is not willing to say anything about it. Congress spokesperson Randeep Surjewala said Modi's commitment to welfare of farmers is highly questionable. Earlier in his speech, Modi questioned the legitimacy of the farmers' movement. All 11 rounds of talks between the BJP government and the farmers have failed. The Modi government refuses to repeal the contentious new farm laws, while the farmers say they won't settle for anything less. Now, the COVID-19 is hitting Latin America hard as Mexico and Brazil have each registered over 1,300 fatalities in the last 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed over 2.35 million lives and infected over 107 million people so far. More on coronavirus in this report. Production challenges, supply chain issues and uncertainties of a vaccine, coupled with the rapidly spreading, highly complicated coronavirus variants, mar the battle against COVID-19. The Canadian province of Newfoundland has gone from COVID-free sanctuary to circuit breaker lockdown as it faces its largest outbreak. In the US, Los Angeles is temporarily closing one of the country's largest vaccination sites at Dodger Stadium, among 4 others due to a lack of doses. California, the US state with the highest number of COVID-19 deaths, has detected 2 cases of the South African mutant of the virus. Down south, Argentina has become the 12th nation to surpass 2 million coronavirus cases amid a host of problems involving the vaccination drive. A new report has found that children in Germany, especially from underprivileged backgrounds, are suffering from psychological issues due to the pandemic. However, Chancellor Angela Merkel has announced to again extend restrictions against COVID-19 until March 7. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has recommended the AstraZeneca vaccine even in the regions where the variant first found in South Africa is present. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has welcomed the organization's recommendation after some countries questioned its efficacy.
And let me stress that these vaccines are safe and effective, and it was good to see the World Health Organization today confirm its support for the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine for use in everyone over the age of 18 and obviously everyone over 65, and also supporting the 12-week interval between the 2 doses. Indeed, they say the longer interval provides greater protection.
However, South Africa is considering trading its doses of AstraZeneca's vaccine and deploying Johnson & Johnson shots instead. Over in Australia, the Victoria state has ramped up contact tracing in Melbourne after a new COVID-19 cluster grew to 8 cases. Meanwhile, Pakistan has recorded another 57 deaths from COVID-19 overnight, raising the death toll to 12,185. The Health Ministry says 1,502 new infections have been detected overnight. The ministry said a total number of cases detected in the country has crossed 559,000 so far. Over 516,000 people have recovered from the disease. The number of currently active COVID-19 cases in the country has topped 30,000. Also in Pakistan, a special search and rescue mission will be flown today to search for missing mountaineers. Pakistan's Muhammad Ali Satmara, John Snorri from Iceland and Juan Pablo Moore from Chile remain missing since summiting K2. Special forward-looking infrared will be used for the search mission. High-altitude climbers are also engaged for ground search as a result of any location spotted through FLIR mission. Earlier, Pakistan assured Chile of all possible efforts to rescue the climbers. Now, Nepal has revoked the Everest summit certificates of 2 Indian climbers for faking their 2016 ascent. Officials say the climbers, along with their team leaders, are now banned from mountaineering in the country for 6 years. They said the climbers failed to produce any evidence, including photos of their ascent to the peak. They added their investigation with other climbers revealed that the 2 never reached the summit. Earlier, Narinder Singh Yadav and Seema Rani Goswami said they reached the top of the world's highest peak in the 2016 spring season. Nepal's tourism department subsequently certified their claim at the time. Now, Iran's envoy to Pakistan, Mohammad Ali Hosseini, has expressed his country's resolve to continue confronting unilateralism and pressure from the United States. He was speaking exclusively to Indus News correspondent Minahil Ahmed on the occasion of the 42nd anniversary of Iran's revolution in 1979. Details in this report.
The day is celebration of Ayatollah Khomeini's return from exile and end of Mohammad Reza Shah's last government giving birth to an Islamic republic. The revolution was unusual for the surprise it created throughout the world, but for Iranians, it was something to cherish on. This year's celebrations come when the country grapples not only with COVID-19 pandemic, but also tense ties with the United States. Iran's envoy to Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Husseini, says Iran's revolution has survived despite all U.S. conspiracies.
Foreign countries like the US were involved in Iran's internal matters the most. Terrorist groups and organizations were supported to break Iran. In the past 4 decades, America continued its rivalry with Iran by imposing all sorts of sanctions on Iran. However, the revolution remains a message to the world that the people of Iran can make decisions for themselves.
Ambassador Husseini said Iran has flourished in different sectors despite U.S. sanctions.
Iran is one of the leading countries in nanotechnology. Similarly, we are ranked 16th globally in scientific progress and are also dominating in the field of aerospace. Likewise, with little resources, we achieve notable success in atomic energy.
The ambassador also hailed bilateral relations between Iran and Pakistan and said the two neighbors are bonded by mutual respect.
Iran was the first country to recognize the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Since then, the relationship between the two countries have been mutually beneficial. Pakistan and Iran share a relationship of neighbors, brotherhood, friendship, and togetherness.
The ambassador said Iran has extended the hand of peace and friendship to all free and right-seeking nations in the region and beyond, as it believes in a shared future based on respect for all. Minahil Ahmed, Indus News, Islamabad.
And now let's have a look at the weather updates across the world. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can always follow us on social media at indus.news.